When Dad referred to me as illiterate garbage and a low life, it exposed how you truly perceive me. No amount of accomplishment can ever alter that perception. I cannot continue to be involved in a relationship in which my worth is determined by credentials rather than character and achievement. I will always love you both, but I need to separate for my own well-being. I hope that eventually we can repair our friendship on the basis of mutual respect. Love, Natalie. I sealed the letter and mailed it from the post office myself. No response arrived in the days that followed. I had my executive assistant pack and ship my personal items from Ohio to Florida. I asked her to donate the majority of my furniture and clothing to local charities, as I wanted to start over with as little baggage as possible. My company might be run remotely, with periodic visits back to attend essential meetings. The leadership team I had developed over the years was capable of handling day-to-day operations without my personal presence. As I boarded the plane to Florida, I had a strange mix of loss and freedom. The family I had worked so hard to please was behind me, but so was the pressure of seeking approval I would never receive. Naples, Florida, welcomed me with warm sunshine and salt-scented air, a sharp contrast to the dismal Ohio winter I had left behind. My beach house was a modern two-story structure with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Gulf of Mexico, standing on a secluded stretch of shoreline. I bought it as an investment property the previous year but had only been there twice for short holidays. When I initially arrived, the property felt impersonal, more like an elite hotel than a home. The real estate agency had handled the furniture with normal luxury vacation home decor, which was lovely but soulless. Making my house genuinely mine was a type of therapy. I began in the primary bedroom, replacing the bland beige bedding with handcrafted quilts from one of my coastal crafted craftsmen in North Carolina. The mass-produced art was replaced with original works by emerging American artists I discovered through the business. Each morning, I awoke to the sound of waves and the sight of true creativity all around me. The next step was to renovate the kitchen. I set up open shelving to showcase handcrafted ceramics from our Vermont and New Mexico suppliers. The industrial-grade appliances remained, but colorful hand-woven linens and locally produced wooden serving boards added warmth to the area. Routines became vital to my healing process. Every morning started with a sunrise walk down the beach, feet in the cool sand, gathering shells and watching dolphins arc through the waves offshore. I discovered a small coffee shop managed by a Cuban-American family, where I became a regular, greeted by name rather than order. Running the business remotely was easier than expected. In-person meetings were replaced by video conferences, and our existing systems worked seamlessly with minimum changes. Without the daily drive and office distractions, I found myself more productive and able to make better judgments from my new, serene headquarters. After the first month, my executive team paid a visit and spent 3 days on my oceanfront deck conducting strategic planning meetings. Several people commented on the good changes they saw in my leadership style. "You seem more centered, Tyler," my operations director remarked, "more confident in your decisions." He was correct. Without the pressure to seek family approval, my business instincts flowed more readily. I trusted my own judgment without the specter of my father's condemnation hovering over each decision. Community involvement became another pillar in my new life. I joined both the local Chamber of Commerce and a business women's networking organization. Unlike in my hometown, where I had minimized my success, here I was forthright about my company and accomplishments. Respect came naturally, free of the baggage of who I was before to my achievement. I became friends with Samantha, the owner of a local art gallery, and she introduced me to her network of people. These were accomplished women in their 30s and 40s who admired each other for their current accomplishments, rather than their former qualifications. Our weekly dinner gatherings became a highlight, filled with laughter and talks that never featured inquiries about my schooling, or claims that I had simply gotten lucky. 3 weeks after I moved to Florida, I received an unexpected visit. My brother David showed up suddenly at my door one Saturday afternoon. "Nice place," he exclaimed, whistling as he took in the seaside view from my living room. "Really nice." His arrival was unsettling in my new refuge. He seemed out of place in his button-down shirt and pressed khakis against my casual coastal decor. "What brings you to Florida, David?" I inquired, not offering a drink or a seat. "Family," he said with the same confident smile that had enchanted our parents since infancy. "And I could use some advice about an investment opportunity, possibly a loan to get in on the ground floor." Some patterns were too obvious to be shocking. His facade immediately dissipated in the absence of my parents. This was strictly a financial visit. "I'm not making any loans to family members anymore," I stated firmly. "That chapter is closed." His expression stiffened. "So that is how it is. You move to your beach mansion and forget where you came from." Dad was right about you. Dad called me uneducated trash and kicked me out of his house, I told him later. Is that what you came here to reinforce? David retreated fast. He did not mean it like that. You know how he gets. Family fights happen. That was not a fight. It was a revelation, I responded. Now if you will excuse me, I have plans this afternoon. After showing him around, I sat on my terrace, watching the surf, remarkably unaffected by the experience. The boundaries I was establishing felt proper, even though they were difficult to implement. That evening, I made an important decision. I called my lawyer and set up an anonymous scholarship fund at the community college I had briefly attended. The Natalie Brooks Entrepreneurship Scholarship would offer complete tuition and mentorship to 5 students each year who displayed entrepreneurial potential but lacked traditional academic advantages. Make sure the selection criteria focus on demonstrated initiative and creative problem solving, not grades, I told the applicant. And look for mentors who have actually developed businesses rather than just taught business classes. As the weeks passed, my place actually felt like home. I created a garden of native Florida plants that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds. I rescued a mixed-breed rescue dog named Milo, who accompanied me on beach walks and slept at the foot of my bed. His simple affection was a constant reminder of how relationships should feel. I discovered surprising peace in solitude. Without the continual underlying fear of family criticism, I uncovered facets of myself that had previously been overshadowed by stress. I took a pottery session at a nearby studio and enjoyed the contemplative process despite my lousy skills. I attempted paddleboard yoga, spending more time in the water than on the board, but laughing through each try. 3 weeks became a month, and then 6 weeks. The anguish of familial rejection persisted, but it became less sharp, more like an old hurt that occasionally ached than a new one. I was creating something new here, not simply a home, but a real existence based on my ideals rather than others' expectations. Then came an unforeseen revelation that would bring my family's narrative full circle in ways I never imagined. The Naples Business Journal was not a publication I usually read, but Samantha texted me early one morning and insisted I get a copy. Page 3. You will want to see this. The feature story highlighted local company owners who have an impact outside Florida. There I was, pictured on my deck with the Gulf of Mexico behind me, with the headline, E-commerce innovator brings multi-million-dollar business to Naples. The journalist had done her research, outlining Coastal Crafted's rise from startup to $20 million valuation, our effect on American manufacturing, and my recent Entrepreneurship Scholarship Foundation. The story presented a considerably more thorough image of achievement than anything I had seen in my hometown media. I did not authorize this, I told Samantha after she called to congratulate me. Public records, she clarified. Property transfers, business registrations. Once they knew you were here, the rest was easy to piece together. Besides, it is a great article. She was correct. The post was well researched and flattering, emphasizing corporate accomplishments rather than personal information. I didn't think much about it until the next week, when my phone began to light up with social media notifications. The piece was taken up by numerous larger business publications, and then widely shared on LinkedIn and Facebook. Former high school classmates immediately recalled our bond. Teachers remarked that they had always recognized my talent. Most surprising were the letters from several small business owners in my hometown, who thanked me for demonstrating what was possible without following established channels. You motivated me to eventually start my business, wrote one former student. If you can develop something that substantial without a fancy degree, then perhaps my proposal has value as well. The local newspaper in my hometown published a simplified version of the article with an additional angle. Local entrepreneur makes national impact. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same community that had discreetly reinforced my parents' disappointment suddenly recognized me as a hometown success story. My family eventually discovered the full depth of my accomplishment as a result of the media's ripple effect. The first hint was a friend request from my cousin Hannah, followed by several additional extended family members who had previously expressed little interest in my life. Then my mother texted me. I saw the article about your company. Very impressive, my dear. Dad and I are quite proud. No mention of his unkind words, no acknowledgement of the schism, just a casual claim of pride that had been noticeably absent while I sat at their dinner table. Voice message arrived the following day, his tone deceptively cheerful. Natalie, there's huge news regarding your company in the paper. I've always known you have it. There appears to have been a misunderstanding last time we spoke. Call me back as soon as you can. A misunderstanding. He referred to his daughter as illiterate trash and ordered her to leave his house. 3 days later my mother texted again. We are thinking of visiting Florida next month. I would love to see your new place. Let us know if that works for you. The message struck like a stone in my gut. 6 weeks of mending, of creating a new life free of their judgment, and now they wanted to simply show up at my door as if nothing had occurred. I did not answer right away, instead scheduled an emergency session with Dr. Mitchell. You have several options, she said after hearing my concerns. You can decline the visit entirely. You can agree, but set strict boundaries about what you will and will not discuss. Or you can see this as an opportunity for honest conversation that might lead to healing, though that requires their willingness to acknowledge the harm done. After careful thinking, I wrote my mother. You and Dad are welcome to visit, but we need to have an open discussion about what happened at his birthday dinner before we can proceed. Please let me know if you are open to that kind of conversation. Her response was quick. Of course, dear. We just want to get this behind us and be a family again. The phrase bothered me, the desire to put everything behind us without confronting it directly, but I finalized plans for their visit the following month. As the day neared, I prepared physically and emotionally. I made arrangements for them to stay in a neighboring motel rather than my home, allowing me to maintain my privacy. I role-played unpleasant conversations with Dr. Mitchell to practice setting limits without becoming defensive. My folks arrived on a lovely Tuesday afternoon. I met them for lunch at a seaside restaurant, which provided a public atmosphere to help temper the initial meeting. They appeared smaller, less threatening than they did in Ohio. My father appeared to be losing confidence. My mother seemed more nervous than I remembered. Despite the coastal environment, they both dressed formally, my father in a button-down shirt and pants, and my mother in a structured dress more appropriate for church than beach eating. This place is something else, my father observed, pointing to the turquoise lake visible through the restaurant windows. You have done well for yourself, Natalie. The subtle emphasis on for yourself did not escape me, the hint that my success existed independently of family values. Thank you, I said simply, not breaking the tense silence that ensued. My mother joined in with small conversation about their flight, the weather, and how different Florida was from Ohio. I responded pleasantly, but did not contribute to the conversation. Finally, once our meal arrived, my father spoke up about what had happened during my birthday dinner. Things got a bit heated. You called me uneducated trash and a lowlife, I replied quietly. You told me to get out of your house and that my money did not make me part of the family. His cheeks reddened. I was surprised by the news about your business. It caught me off guard. I may have overreacted. Not an apology, but an excuse. I need to understand, I said, keeping eye contact. Was that reaction about me sharing my success, or about learning I had been helping the family financially? Both. Felt like you were showing off, my mother remarked. Like you were saying you are better than us now. I never said or thought that, I explained. I spent years hiding my success to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. I helped financially because I could, and I wanted to support the family I love. My dad shifted uncomfortably. Well, the way you presented it was very forward, and finding out you were behind those other things. It felt like charity we never asked for. The talk remained in this vein throughout lunch. There was no genuine apology, only explanations and attempts to diminish the gravity of the situation. The implication became clearer. They were here because my public achievement made rejecting me socially unpleasant, not because they had revised their opinion of my value. As we finished our lunch, I came to a decision. I would like to show you my home. But first, I need to be very clear about something. I will not pretend the dinner never happened. I will not accept being called names or having my choices denigrated. If you want a relationship moving forward, it has to be based on mutual respect. They exchanged eyes, and my father nodded stiffly. That seems reasonable. When they arrived at my beach property later that afternoon, their looks as they took in the magnificent ocean vista said it all. This tangible evidence of my progress could not be dismissed or minimized. The $20 million valuation was no longer an abstract figure, but rather reflected in beachfront real estate and elegant elegance. This is quite something, my father said, his voice tense. Would you like a tour? I suggested. As I guided them through the house, pointing them the handcrafted artifacts from coastal crafted craftsmen that adorned each room, I realized something significant. Their acceptance, which I had desired for so long, no longer carried the same weight. I was proud of this home and the company that made it possible, regardless of how they reacted. This discovery was possibly the most valuable outcome of their visit, worth more than any apology they could have given. The talk that occurred after my parents' tour of the beach house was painful, but important. We sat on the terrace overlooking the ocean, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and pink that seemed too lovely for such a heated debate. "I want to be clear about something," my father said, his tone more conciliatory than I'd ever heard. "I am sorry for what I said at my birthday. It was uncalled for, regardless of how surprised I was. While the apology was appreciated, it was tempered by a qualification that reduced its significance." His attention remained on his amazement, rather than the damage his comments had caused. "What hurt most," I said softly, "was that those words seemed to reveal how you truly see me, despite everything I have accomplished." My mother reached across the table, indicating toward my hand rather than touching it. "We have always been proud of you, Natalie. We just worried about your future without a degree." "My future is here," I declared, pointing to the property and the business that had made it possible. "I built it without a degree, but with 7 years of working harder than most people ever will. That deserves respect, not condescension." My dad shifted uncomfortably. "The business world can be fickle. Companies rise and fall overnight. We just wanted security for you." "I understand that concern comes from love," I told you. "But there is no perfect security in any path. Plenty of people with degrees struggle financially, while others without formal education thrive. What matters is recognizing there are multiple valid paths to success." The chat lasted several hours as the sun sank and stars appeared over the gulf. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no sobbing group hug that somehow repaired decades of misunderstanding. Instead, we achieved a shaky agreement, a beginning point rather than a conclusion. "Moving forward," I said as the party ended, "I am open to rebuilding our relationship, but with clear boundaries. I will not accept being demeaned for my educational choices, or having my success attributed to luck rather than hard work and skill." My parents consented, but I could see my father's reluctance in his tight grin, and the way he qualified his comments. My mother appeared more open, perhaps realizing for the first time the part she had played in permitting the family dynamics that had caused so much suffering. After they returned to Ohio, I reflected on my visit, and the road that had brought me here. The mending process was far from complete, but great progress had been made. In the months that followed, I only spoke with my parents once a week, which grew less awkward over time. My relationship with my siblings developed differently. Claire eventually made a real apology for her role in the family dynamics, and we gradually restored a relationship based on adult friendship rather than childhood habits. David stayed distant, occasionally sending holiday pleasantries, but making no genuine attempt to understand or acknowledge the pain done. My personal recovery journey continues with frequent therapy appointments. Dr. Mitchell assisted me in seeing how family trauma had influenced my approach to business and relationships, instilling habits of seeking validation through performance and financial generosity. "Success is not a substitute for self-worth," my mother informed me, "and family approval cannot be purchased, no matter how much you give." This realization prompted me to set firmer limits in all interactions. I felt more comfortable talking about my successes without downplaying them. I learned to contribute out of true charity, rather than in an attempt to get acceptance. The Entrepreneurship Foundation became the focal point of my philanthropic efforts. Aside from supporting scholarships, I created a mentorship program that connects successful businesses, without traditional credentials, with talented students experiencing similar obstacles. Witnessing their development and achievement provided a deeper sense of happiness than any family approval could. My friend circle in Naples grew, forming a chosen family built on mutual respect and true connection. Our weekly reunions provided a sense of joy and belonging that I had never had in Ohio. These interactions, which I deliberately picked and maintained, showed me what it feels like to have healthy support. The beach house evolved completely over time, with each space representing my unique taste and beliefs rather than generic luxury. The garden thrived with native flora that attracted wildlife. Milo, my rescue dog, found a buddy when I adopted a second dog from the local shelter, a senior retriever named Daisy, whom everyone had overlooked. Running Coastal crafted remotely was such a success that I created flexible work practices for all employees, allowing them to work from anywhere for part of the year. Productivity rose, and employee satisfaction reached all-time highs. One year after moving to Florida, I organized a dinner party for my new friends. As we sat around the table on my terrace, watching dolphins frolic in the sunset waves, I thought how drastically my life had changed from that awful night at my parents' place to chosen family. Samantha toasted by raising her glass. "And to having the courage to prioritize respect over obligation." The remark perfectly reflected what I had learned on my journey. Family relationships are important, but not at the expense of dignity and self-respect. Success cannot be evaluated merely by degrees or traditional accomplishments, but rather by the people we touch and the good impact we have. Most significantly, I learned that forgiving does not imply forgetting or continuing to tolerate abusive treatment. True forgiveness is an emotional process that involves releasing anger and resentment, while keeping healthy boundaries. My tale, like everyone's, is still unfolding. My connection with my parents is constantly changing, sometimes improving and sometimes reverting to old patterns. I maintain my boundaries with compassionate firmness, acknowledging that total comprehension may never be possible but refusing to compromise my self-worth in the pursuit of it. If my experience has taught me anything, it's that your worth is not defined by other people's impressions, especially those clouded by obsolete beliefs and expectations. Success manifests itself in a variety of ways, often unexpectedly, and the most painful rejections can lead to the most true and gratifying future roots. Have you ever had to choose between meeting family expectations and following your own path? Did you confront criticism for your unique approach to success? Please share your experience in the comment section below. If this story spoke to you, remember to like and subscribe, and then share it with others who may be dealing with similar familial situations. Thank you for listening. Take care. Good luck.